Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about the top 10 loadouts currently within Warzone. And Warzone is probably the most balanced it's ever been in the history of Warzone, with the exception of this MG82. Once the nerf comes through on that, it might change things up slightly, but overall, this is going to be a really good meta with several options for long range, several options for close range, with a ton of great options when it comes to snipers. If you enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Quick side note, I have renewed my partnership with Gamer Advantage. So if you're looking to get yourself some blue light glasses, there's a link near the top of the description. Personally, I use them because I stare at screens all day long. If you only stare at them a couple hours a day, probably not going to be a huge issue for you. So if you'd like to get a pair of your own, go ahead and check out the link near the top of the description. So I've changed this up slightly compared to how I've done some of these best or top 10 loadouts in Warzone, because I kind of mix things up with this bottom section. I always have an experimental section, and this one's good where I kind of just mix stuff up, try other things out, and see if other weapons are kind of fitting into the meta. In my experimental spot, I am using the CR58 meta build, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's meta with some of these names. I just decided to name them that because they are the current meta build in my opinion. We have this one. It's kind of like the AMAX replacement. It's kind of even there with the AMAX. It does fire a little bit slow, so it's not for everyone, but the build is going to be the agency suppressor, task force barrel, 3x optic, and with the change to the task force barrel, makes it so you don't really need an underbarrel, and you can kind of put another attachment towards the airborne elastic rep, especially since that's going to be the best one for aim down sight speed. And obviously it's going to have a little bit of a downside when it comes to hurting your sprint to fire, but this is a long range weapon, so you're already almost always going to be aiming down sight. You're almost never going to be sprinting and then firing this weapon from the hip fire, so not really going to run into issues with that. Reload's pretty decent on this thing. 55 round mag compared to the 45 of the AMAX, so pretty solid option to start with. Milano, I'm not quite sold on it yet. We did a breakdown on chat ranking all the weapons. I am not 100% sold on the Milano. I like it. I think it's a huge step in the right direction. It still has an open bolt delay. You still need a decent amount of chest shots. Slow fire rate, but the TTK is pretty decent now. We have agency suppressor, task force, tiger team, raider stock, and then we also have the 55 round drum mag, which is pretty solid. Hopefully someday the Uzi will have AE round that's 55. That'll definitely be fitting in the meta, but until that day, we do have the Milano, which they didn't take long to buff this weapon, so pretty solid. And then you got your perks. Perk 1, typically double time, EOD, cold-blooded, and maybe if you're playing Plunder and you're getting shot by those helicopters. Other than that, not really much good options here. Maybe quick fix if you know how to use it right. But in general, that's not how it goes. More than likely, most people go overkill, ghost, or restock, and those are the main go-tos. Amped is pretty much the main way to go. Tune-up can help in a private match. Spotter can be okay. Obviously, specialist bonus can be useful in getting all these things. Tracker, cool. But amped, when you're getting caught weapon swapping, this is the way to go. And then Semtex, you can use Semtex, you can use a Molotov, you can use throwing knives if you like insta-downing people, depending on the weapon. You can use Prox Mines, Thermite. There's a lot of good options. And then the Heartbeat is the main go-to when I use Overkill. When I grab the other loadout, maybe if I'm going to go restock, I'm definitely going to grab stuns. Just keeping in mind, I know how they affect controller players, so I just play and use them as assuming everyone I'm going up against is a controller player. Then I have these two loadouts here at 8 and 9, essentially the exact same build. The only thing that swaps out is Ghost and Restock with Claymore and a Semtex, and it's just a matter of preference at that point. But Grow is the #1 all-around best Modern Warfare 4 attachment weapon. And what I mean by that is you need a 5th attachment so you can get fully loaded. So when you grab your Ghost or you grab your Restock after grabbing Overkill, you're going to get fully loaded right off the bat. So you're going to have max ammo if you're struggling to get the situation taken care of. This is zone 5. You're coming to land. M4 also fits in this. And those are probably like the main 2 Modern Warfare guns. Psychov, you can either go fully decked out, use the store-bought the stock ammo, or you can actually get rid of one of the attachment like this Prizrak and then swap to fully loaded as well. The Psychov is going to be monolithic, 140 millimeter auto, tac laser, 80 round drum, and then either the Prizrak or you can go fully loaded. For the Growl, we are running the monolithic Archangel Commando 60 round and fully loaded, and we're basically dropping the tac laser from the normal build. And we've talked about this in the past. Growl is so good just because it has good mobility, good aim down sight, good recoil control, decent damage, decent TTK, not overpowered, and looks good without an optic. So you got a lot going for it there. And then as we see, the perks and everything else carries over. And those are the exact same for 8 and 9. I decided to drop my Sniper, Ghost, and Restock classes because if I feel like I'm going to go for those, I'm going to go for those right off the bat, and then I'll grab one of these as my second loadout, and I'll just keep the Sniper. And that allows us to get a couple more weapons into the meta because there are a lot of good weapons at this current point. There's a lot of good close range and long range options. Number 7 is going to be the Krig PPSH. The Krig I'm not really a huge fan of because I feel like there's other weapons that do it a little bit better, but I think some people that struggle maybe with the recoil, they need the gun to be a laser beam as possible, and they just perform better with this one. The Krig build is going to be agency suppressor, this bottom barrel. We also have the 50 round airborne elastic because this one also has a built-in recoil reduction that we don't no longer need an underbarrel. The 3X is also providing a little bit of recoil reduction. So all across the board on the top, we're making up for the slower aim down sight with the airborne elastic, and we have a pretty good build here on the Krig. PPSH, you got all the SMGs when it comes to Cold War pretty much built the same way. There are some exceptions, which we'll see, but for the most part, they're built with this build. Grew suppressor for pretty much all the Cold War guns. For the SMGs, except for the AK-74U. Since it has a very slow aim down sight, you go with sound suppressor. But in this case, this gun aim down sight is pretty quick. Recoil is pretty manageable. You need the range, bullet velocity, strafe speed of this SMG. That's going to help out with that. Tiger Team for the mobility, Raider stock also for mobility and sprint to fire. And then we have the 55 round drum. You could drop one of these two attachments or even the task force if you feel like the recoil is hurting too much. Put on an underbarrel. And that's kind of pretty much all I would do. Unless you want a little bit cleaner optic, you can go with the optic as well. But overall, this thing aims down sight fast enough where it doesn't need really a rear grip. The rest is the same. Next one up, Stoner LC10. And I like the combination of an LC10 with the Stoner. You could do a PPSH as well. I think MP7 could be a good option just because in case you're getting caught in a reload animation, you want to be able to have something that is at least decent at range, but not like your go-to. Obviously, your Stoner is going to be your go-to. Agency suppressor, task force. Pretty much built the same way. They kind of given us a formula because this thing helps with recoil so much, the task force compared to hurting it. Now we can use that instead of underbarrel, use the airborne elastic, get faster aim down sight, and you can either go with the 120 or the fast mag, depending on how your play style, what your mode is, and then we go with the 3X optic, and the thing looks like it doesn't have a lot of recoil. We did the side-by-side after the update, and we can see what the recoil looked like. Definitely manageable, especially within those first 45-ish shots. Then we have the LC10. Like I said, it's built fairly the same. Agency suppressor, task force, Tiger Team, Raider stock, and then the 55 round mag. And this one's more of a sniper support, longer range build. And that's kind of why I've paired it with a long range option like the LMG, where you might be caught reloading. Next up is the AMAX MAC-10. This kind of fallen a little bit lower, not because it's bad. It did get a nerf, but it's still as good as always. Maybe there's certain scenarios where you'll notice a slight difference, but overall there is it's still a great option in the meta. And then we have that, same as always, Monolithic, Zodiac, VOK, Commando, 45 round mag. And then for the MAC-10, we're running the same build that we talked about. Agency, Task Force, Tiger Team, Raider stock, and then 53 round drum. Then that's going to move us to the top 4. And this one is a little bit different. This one's a sniper support build. You can use the Cold War AK-47 as ranged option. It's just fewer and fewer people are going to use that. So definitely not meta. But in a skilled player's hands, it's within their meta that they could use it. But the average player not going to be able to control the AK-47 even after these buffs. A little bit more difficult than the AMAX, and I know some people struggled with the AMAX. So I've included the sniper support build. We have the suppressor, the regular one for better ADS. We have this RPK barrel, so we're not getting penalized. Obviously, we're getting penalized there, but not as much. 45 round mag, so we're not as slow as we would be with the 60. LED, just because you want clean iron sights. But this thing, you can tend to lose people in iron sights, so you got to go with the optic. Skeleton stock, strafe speed, mobility, and then overall sprint to fire time. If you are up close, you can get a little bit of hip fire action. Then Car 98. We are rocking the standard Car 98. Monolithic, 27.6 inch barrel, tac laser, sniper scope, and precision comb. That one's going to be for the best stability. If you want the fastest aim down sight of around 370 milliseconds, you're going to go with the sport comb, but you're going to create a little bit more instability. This one's more of a quick scoper gun that you're used to it. You drag scope, you're good, and you line up those shots. So it comes down to preference and skill. And then we go into the next one, which is also a sniper support build, but with the Swiss. Now at this point with the Swiss being buffed, it's pretty much interchangeable with the car. The only difference really is the aim down sight versus damage. Car 98's faster. This one has a little bit more damage. So there are a little bit of trade-offs, but overall, fairly even. Then this one kind of replacing the RAM, because even though the RAM is still very good, could easily fit into this list if you're a fan of it. I think there are some other good options when it comes to Cold War. For this one, we're using the regular suppressor, Spetsnaz RPK. You could use the GRU if you want it to be a little bit slower, but have a little bit more range, a little bullet velocity, a little bit less recoil. You could go that way, but the changes they've made, I think this is a good sniper support option. The 60 round, the GRU elastic wrap, and then the skeletal stock. Since this is more of a sniper support build, you don't need nearly as much range, and there's no optics, so you just kind of have to like those optics. The Swiss, pretty straightforward build. This is kind of how you build almost all of the Cold War snipers. The only exception is the ZRG. You tend to give a little bit of ammo because a 3-round mag just isn't enough. 5 built in with this is pretty solid. We got the GRU suppressor, combat recon, 5 milliwatt, which is like the tac laser, bruiser grip, which is going to help, like it says here, with the movement speed, but almost also aiming stability, which is keeps this thing pretty much laser, where wherever you aim, it's not moving a lot. You can make subtle adjustments and you're good to go. And then the serpent grip is generally the way to go. Even if I had the elastic wrap unlocked, I would still probably go with the serpent, just because it's going to give you a little bit faster aim down sight. The elastic wrap can help with a little bit more flinch and stuff like that, but I prefer still the serpent for ADS speed. We're getting into the top 2 here. The FARA, I think, is probably the #1 weapon after this MG nerf, but MG nerf hasn't happened yet. We're going to have the GRU suppressor, the RPK barrel, because we're focusing 100% on range. We have the Axial Arms 3X, 60 round mag, and then the GRU elastic, which is going to help with the ADS, so we get closer to that 450-ish mark instead of like closer to 500 if we decide to put on something heavier, or not that something that's going to help us out there. So that'll help it still maintain its balance there. Close range, if you know how to use the MP5, this is the main go-to build. You get the extra mobility, agency suppressor. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit slower, but these things ADS so fast, it doesn't get penalized that hard. Tiger Team for mobility, ADS speed, or strafe speed, Raider stock, strafe speed, bruiser, movement, and hip fire accuracy, which also impacts your sprinting speed positively, and your aim down sight, strafe speed, which is a huge bonus there. And then you got 50 round mag. This thing is very hard hitting, sub 500 TTK within about 9 meters. So very good weapon to use. That's going to bring us to the most broken meta currently right now in the game. Pretty much this is the main one you should be using until it gets nerfed. Take advantage of it. We have the MG. It has the regular agency suppressor, task force, 3X, fast mag, or the 125. Depends on what you want to go with. The extra 25 bullets because it's to come stock 100. And then you get the airborne elastic wrap for the fastest aim down sight. It will not give you as much benefit to that sprint to fire because it's going to hurt it, but you're not hip firing this thing, so you don't really have to worry about that. You're getting the fastest aim down sight with that particular attachment. Then the most versatile gun currently in the game. You can use it for SMG build, sniper support. You can use it for long range. Obviously, there's not enough. If we had 30 class setups, we could do a top 30, and XM4 would have 3 or 4 different loadouts in there. But in this particular case, we're focusing on the close range option, which is more like an SMG. So we have the agency suppressor. We are not putting on a barrel because we're getting enough bullet velocity out of there. We're getting a faster aim down sight here with the airborne elastic, Tiger Team spotlight for the strafe, Raider pad for the strafe, and then we also have the 45 round mag for the extra mobility. You can put on the 60 if you feel like you need it, but this one's more of like a reflex type gun, so you need to have as fast aim down sight as possible so that you're taking advantage of those strafe speeds. And that's pretty much the loadouts. But if there's a weapon on here that was not included, I have a list for you guys near the top of the description where you can click on it. It has the loadouts rankings and it includes loadouts for pretty much all the guns. We went through and updated this live on stream. I got to actually update that now so it matches, because we went through and we were able to go ahead and check everything out. We ranked everything so you can kind of see how things rank against each other as a community on stream with about 2,500 people in there. We went through rating everything. So if you're looking for a particular loadout, it's not on this top 10, you can find something here at least as a starting point. If you want to look at some times to kill, see how things compare against each other, this spreadsheet is available and it updates live. So if you bookmark it, you'll have it saved for the future. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.